The call lasted 30 seconds. No voice. No breathing. No background noise. Just an open line and then nothing. Dispatch tried to call back twice. Straight to voicemail. When emergency services traced the signal, it led to a small house at the edge of the city. 1 floor. White fence. Lights off. The kind of place you pass every day without learning anything about the people inside. I arrived with the first unit. The front door was unlocked. Not forced. Not ajar. Unlocked. That detail matters. Inside, the house was still. Not the calm of sleep, something heavier. Like the air had already decided what had happened and was waiting for us to catch up. The kitchen light was on. She was seated at the table. Upright. Hands folded. Ankles crossed. As if she'd paused in the middle of a thought and never returned to it. No blood. No visible injuries. No overturned furniture. Her phone sat to her right. Screen dark. Powered off. Placed parallel to the table's edge. Careful. Too careful. I checked for signs of life anyway. Cold to the touch. Rigor beginning in the jaw. She'd been gone for hours. Time of death didn't match the call. That was the first lie. The second came from the phone itself. It was fully charged. No missed calls. No outgoing calls logged in the last 12 hours. Except one. Emergency services. 30 seconds. But the phone was powered off when we found it, which meant it had been turned off after the call. I scanned the room. A single mug sat on the table. Cold coffee. Untouched. A chair opposite her remained pushed in. She hadn't been waiting for someone. She'd been preparing for something. I asked dispatch to replay the audio. Static. Light interference. No movement. No shift in pressure. Whoever placed the call hadn't held the phone to their face. They'd set it down. I followed the sound logic backward. If the phone wasn't near her head and she wasn't holding it, then where was it during the call? The kitchen counter showed a faint rectangle in the dust. Same size as the phone. That's where it had been. Placed flat. Facing up. Someone wanted the call to connect, but not to be heard. I checked the sink. Dry. No dishes soaking. No sign she'd been interrupted mid-task. The clock on the wall had stopped. Battery dead. Time frozen at 11:47 p.m. The call came in at 12:18 a.m. She was already dead. I stepped closer to her chair and noticed something small. Her shoes were on. People don't die at their kitchen table wearing shoes unless they're expecting to leave or expecting someone else to arrive. I looked at her face. No fear. No struggle. Just a tightness around the eyes, like she'd accepted something before it happened. We ran her name. Elena Moore. 39. Divorced. No criminal record. Worked nights as a transcriptionist. Mostly at home. No history of emergency calls. No mental health flags. Neighbors reported nothing unusual. No raised voices. No visitors. Which meant the call wasn't a cry for help. It was a timestamp. I walked through the rest of the house. Bedroom untouched. Bed made. No sign she'd slept in it. Bathroom clean. No water in the sink. No towel disturbed. She hadn't been living when the house was last used. She'd been staged. Back in the kitchen, I noticed the chairs. 4 of them. Only one had been pulled out recently. The others were untouched. Dust unbroken. This wasn't a conversation. It was a performance. I crouched beside the table and checked beneath it. A single scuff mark on the floor. Toe-shaped. Not hers. Someone else had stood there. Close enough to reach the phone. Close enough to turn it off. Close enough to make sure the call went through. I stood and felt the shift in the room, the moment when a death stops being unexplained and starts being intentional. Whoever made that call didn't want help. They wanted record. A line in the system that said, something happened here. They wanted us to come. But not in time. And as I looked at Elena Moore, seated, composed, finished, I realized the most disturbing part wasn't the silence on the call. It was the timing. because whoever made it knew exactly when it was already too late. And they wanted us to know it too. The autopsy ruled out what the room had already suggested. No blunt force trauma. No defensive wounds. No foreign DNA under the nails. Cause of death: acute cardiac arrhythmia triggered by potassium chloride. Silent. Fast. Almost undetectable unless you know where to look. The needle mark was there, but barely. Inside the elbow crease, disguised by the natural folds of skin. Clean insertion. No hesitation. No bruising. Whoever did this had steady hands. Medical familiarity. The toxicology timeline placed her death between 11:30 p.m. and 11:45 p.m. The emergency call came in at 12:18 a.m. 33 minutes late. Enough time to wash hands. Enough time to think. Enough time to decide what kind of story to leave behind. I went back to the house alone. Same stillness. Same kitchen light humming faintly above the table. Elena Moore sat exactly as we'd left her in the photos, composed, arranged, finished. I looked at the phone again. Fully powered down. Phones don't turn themselves off. And no one powers off a phone by accident after calling emergency services. I checked the charging port. Clean. No cable used. She didn't die while scrolling. She didn't die reaching for help. She died listening. The neighbors had been wrong about one thing. Someone had visited. Security cameras from 3 houses down finally gave us a shadow. A figure crossing the sidewalk at 11:12 p.m. entering Elena's yard without knocking. No bag. No visible weapon. Familiar. Someone who didn't need permission. I checked Elena's work files. She transcribed audio recordings for legal firms. Depositions. Interviews. Confessions. Most of it was routine. Until one file stopped me. Labeled only with a date. The audio was 30 seconds long. Static. No voice. No movement. Just an open line. The metadata showed it had been edited once. Timestamp: 11:09 p.m. 9 minutes before the visitor arrived. I listened again. Under the static, barely there, was a sound. A finger tapping glass. Once. Then twice. The same rhythm as the dispatch audio. She had heard that call before it was ever made. Someone had shown her the recording. A warning. Or a promise. I followed the timeline forward. Elena's phone log showed a missed call at 11:15 p.m. from a blocked number. She didn't answer. The door camera didn't exist. The porch light had been unscrewed. Deliberate darkness. Inside the kitchen, I noticed something I'd missed before. A second mug. Clean. Dry. Put away. Someone else had been there long enough to clean up after themselves. If you're still listening, this is where the case stops being about a call and starts being about control. The potassium chloride wasn't stolen. It was ordered legally. Small quantity. Delivered 3 days earlier. To Elena's address. Signed for by her. She hadn't ordered it. But someone using her email had. The login came from her home network. Someone who already had access. I traced the IP. It pointed back to a device we hadn't checked yet. The landline. Old. Almost forgotten. Plugged into the wall near the kitchen. It wasn't connected to emergency services. But it could dial out. Someone had used it to make the call. Not her phone. The landline handset was clean. Too clean. But the base? Underneath it, pressed into the dust, was the faint outline of fingers. Someone had lifted it carefully. Replaced it carefully. The call had been made after Elena was dead. From inside her house. By someone who wanted it logged, but not traced to a mobile device. We pulled phone records tied to the landline. One call. Outgoing. 30 seconds. Then silence. I checked Elena's contacts. Again. There was one name missing from recent activity. Her ex-husband. They'd divorced quietly a year earlier. No restraining orders. No court battles. But he worked in medical supply logistics. Access. Knowledge. He claimed he'd been home all night. His alibi unraveled under traffic cameras. He'd been there. He admitted it eventually. Not the killing. The call. She was already gone, he said. I just didn't want it to look like nothing happened. That was the truth. And the lie. Because the call wasn't about help. It was about authorship. He wanted to be part of the ending without being present at the moment of death. A record in the system. A timestamp that said I was there after. But he underestimated one thing. Silence keeps patterns. And systems remember what people forget. The dispatch call. The landline record. The edited audio file. They all shared the same rhythm. 3 taps. His habit. The jury heard the call. 30 seconds of nothing. And understood everything. Elena Moore didn't die alone. She died watched. And the last sound she heard wasn't a voice. It was proof. This is Silent Evidence Files. Subscribe if you know silence isn't empty. It's evidence waiting to be heard.